I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show, and I encourage you, as I always do at this time, to please go to the Pal Talk News Network website, which resides at reportergary.com, where we update it from the early morning to the early night. Good golly, Miss Molly. And I encourage you as well to please hit me up on Facebook and on Twitter. On Facebook, I am there as Gary Baumgarten, 2 words, common spelling, G-A-R-Y-B-A-U-M-G-A-R-T-E-N. On Twitter as 1 word, still Gary Baumgarten, common spelling, G-A-R-Y-B-A-U-M-G-A-R-T-E-N. And sometimes stories break there long before they appear on the Pal Talk News Network website because they just do. It's easier to get to it there. To my right, your left, is a return engagement of Danny Schechter, the news dissector. Danny is an award-winning author, documentary filmmaker, and radio show host, and what am I missing? Journalist.
Blogger.
And blogger. He's
at newsdissector.net.
At newsdissector.net. And welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Gary.
We had Danny on the show before, but we asked him for a return engagement specifically because Danny has just returned from Tehran, where, believe it or not, he interviewed none other than Mr. Ahmadinejad.
Well, I had a conversation.
A conversation. You had a conversation, you wrote it up, you made a story out of it.
I tried.
That's an interview. Maybe by now in your, career you would realize what an interview is when you have one.
An interview really should be a sit-down exchange of views, a real attempt to challenge and follow up. I really didn't have that opportunity because it was after a public speech that he had given, a public event. But I did get a few questions in, and I did, get an opportunity to hear him speak. And it was interesting because it really wasn't quite what I expected. I expected more of an anti-American tirade of some kind.
Right.
And I didn't get that. It was more of a sort of philosophical discourse. One part of the Iranian Revolution is about values and spiritual belief and Islamic ideas and what have you. It's not only about, USA bad,
right.
USA down. It's about, trying to create some sort of different cultural way of living, and this is something that Iran, is attempting to do, but with a lot of cleavages, a lot of conflicts, a lot of disagreements within Iran.
You asked him the money question.
Well, what happened, which I don't feel like was such a brilliant moment, but I thought, how can I really, in a few minutes, engage him? So I started out by saying, Mr. President, should I be scared of you?
Right.
And he went it back. He said, am I so scary? I said, well, to a lot of people in the world, you are very scary.
Right.
Should I be afraid that you're going to drop an atomic bomb on my head? Was the next question. And again, he recoiled. He said, no, we're not making any atomic nuclear bombs. You don't have to be afraid of that. And then I basically got into a discussion with him.
I feel so much better now.
Well, look. Saddam Hussein claimed he had weapons when he didn't.
Right. This one claims that he doesn't have weapons.
When he might. We don't know. But the point is, it's not just having a weapon. It's an ability to deliver that weapon and in some form. It's very interesting. All the fuss about the weapons clearly should indicate to us, as it does to him, that unless you have nuclear weapons, you're not feared, you're not respected, you're not treated with any. So we're encouraging them to have nuclear weapons because that's all we're reacting to.
Now wait a minute, hold on for one quick second. They are signatories to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and so therefore they ought not to be making weapons.
And they claim they're not, but you claim they are.
I'm not claiming anything.
Yes, you don't trust, you don't believe what he's saying.
Well, no, are you skeptical of our government?
I am indeed.
So why would you be skeptical of their government?
You have every right to be skeptical.
Thank you. I appreciate that you gave me the license to be skeptical today, Danny.
But my point is that at least what we know, which may not be very much, okay?
Or maybe a lot that we're not being told.
What we know is that there has been no really hard evidence produced. There's been a lot of evidence like this. Well, if they have this, they could do that, they might do that, it's possible that they'll do that. Who knows?
But it's not just coming from the United States and Israel and Saudi Arabia. It's coming from the International Atomic Energy Commission.
The International Atomic Energy Commission, to my knowledge, has not charge them with having weapons. They are accusing them, or they want to investigate and inspect all of their,
and they won't let them inspect where the weapons are supposedly being made.
Partly because, this body long ago lost whatever claims of impartiality and neutrality that it may have once had, like under El-Baradei. That body was certainly respected. Under its new Japanese U.S. appointed head, it is seen more as a tool of the West, certainly in Iran.
It's seen as a tool of the West during Iraq. Supposedly they were like spies for the United States. That allegation was thrown out there.
Well, they were. In fact, there is evidence that they were spying, and that a lot of U.S. military people infiltrated into those missions. I mean, this was said by a number of people, including former inspector there,
Scott Ritter.
Yeah, but my point is not so much to say, that they do have them or they don't have them. I don't know, and I would like to believe that they don't, because if they get caught, with having them, there's going to be consequences which they probably don't want. And
well, there may be consequences if they just don't open up, because the presumption has to be in that case that they do have the weapons.
No, usually you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty.
Yeah, but if you're in Israel and you're worried about being wiped out by these guys,
I don't think Israel is worried about being wiped out. I think what is going on here is something else. Both countries, Israel and Iran, have conflicts within their populations. Both governments really don't have majority support. I mean, there was just a general strike in Israel with over 400,000 people, more than live in the whole city of Tel Aviv, were on strike against the Netanyahu government. That government is held together by a coalition in which a party like Shas, or these little parties that have one representative, hold a balance of power. So it's not exactly a democracy. It's run by a war cabinet in Israel, which means that the military is actually running the show. The government wants an external enemy because that unifies the population.
I don't think they need to unify the population because they have real enemies. Why would they have to make up enemies?
I think they need...
They get rockets thrown at them every single day, Danny.
Well, hold on a second. Not in any serious way that threatens them.
Well, not in any serious way. If they were throwing it at your house in Manhattan, you would think that, not in any serious way.
If you want to get into this tit-for-tat analysis, then you have to listen also to what the Palestinians are saying about the number of Palestinian civilians who have been killed by Israeli bombing or various...
Right, but that's another issue. We were talking about a boogeyman.
No, they relate the two. What I'm trying to say is that they need an quote, they don't even say it's a real threat. They say it's an existential threat, like Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist, is making this threat. They've created this threat because when they have this threat, they have more leverage. In other words, Israel runs on a principle of, we are the victims of the world. We're victims, no more. We will dictate what we want and what we need. They use the Israeli lobby in the United States to do that. They have a lot of leverage.
Israeli lobby. That's a code word, right?
No, it's a real force. It's an extremely real force. I mean, and this is an election year, and the Obama people obviously don't want to,
piss off the Jewish vote.
Or piss them off any more than they're already pissed off.
So wait a minute.
The point is, though, that General Dempsey...
But all he has to do is, he was kind to you. You walked up to him, he talked to you, he embraced you, he kissed you on either cheek.
No, he didn't do that.
Well, he should have, because, when I see you, I feel like kissing you on the cheek.
There was tongue involved, okay?
Okay, now you're talking. Now, let's make this an A-rated movie. But listen, so he said, come on in, you're welcome here. All he had to do when the IAEA went to that military base where they suspect their nuclear weapons, when they knocked on the door, say, come on in, you can see for yourself there's nothing there.
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's back up. I described what I felt was Israel's attitude, that Israel needs an external enemy to create...
They don't have enough real ones that they have to make some up.
Internal unity. Okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That there's a relationship between the two things. The same is true of Iran.
Yeah.
The Iranian government, certainly in Tehran, I mean, I don't think the president enjoys majority support in Iran.
The president here doesn't enjoy majority support.
Well, according to the recent polls, he's over 50%. But leaving that as it is, the point is that they need an external enemy too. an external enemy there unifies them, and the nuclear program is popular in Iran, both in terms of this president's supporters, but also among the opposition. Why? Because it's a point of national pride. They're saying, why shouldn't Iran be able to have what other nations have? Now we're talking
because they agreed not to.
We're not talking about weapons now, but they say, listen, you're suspicious of us. You want to investigate us and what we have in our. But what about Israel? They have over 600 weapons, supposedly.
They're not a signatory.
Nuclear weapons. Wait a second. Nobody is saying, hey.
They're not a signatory, though.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be a danger? A potential danger? A nation with 600 nuclear bombs, unknown, unverified, unsupervised?
I think they should be a signatory to the. And have
so
yes.
what I'm saying is, there's a lot of suspicion to go around on all sides here. And this issue is a political ping pong, as it is on this show.
And I'm glad you say that. And I'm glad you said that, because you know that the Pal Talk News Network is now U.S. Election Central 2012. So let's narrow it down. You kind of went around the edges of it.
Let me just go to the last question I asked
Yes.
him. I said, listen, Mr. President, are you willing to talk to the United States and discuss these issues?
Yeah.
Okay? And his response was, predictably enough, the United States is not willing to talk to us. We've asked to talk to them. They refuse to talk to us. So, it's like, back and forth. It's like a game of chess, and in which everybody makes valid claims, but nothing happens that moves the story forward. In the case of Iran, let's flash back. Republican president, okay, one of the hated, most despised Republican president, most anti-communist, the most student activist. No, Richard Nixon.
Oh, Nixon, even before the cowboy.
Right, Richard Nixon, goes to China, the Red Menace, Red China.
It makes detente.
He makes detente, and he basically does something to break the ice. He says, we are going to recognize China.
Yeah.
The United States did not recognize the Chinese Revolution. We will recognize you, and we will have normal diplomatic relations with you.
Right.
Had he not done that, probably now, given the financial crisis that we're in, that China is bailing us out of because China it holds so much of our debt, we would probably be, flushed down that bowl, not just in the bowl, okay? So Nixon does something very uncharacteristic of Nixon, but nevertheless, it actually helps stabilize.
But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen with our government in Tehran before November.
No, it won't. But my point is, there's no effort being made at any diplomacy. Isn't that what the State Department is there for? Diplomacy. Let's talk. Yes, we disagree. Let's disagree. Let's agree to disagree. Let's hate each other. Let's not talk to each other. Fine. But let's at least recognize that each other exists. We don't recognize the Iranian Revolution. 33 years later, it didn't happen. It didn't exist. It's invalid. Nobody here talks about U.S. support for the Shah of Iran or the overthrow of the Mossadegh government, before that led to the Shah coming into power because he wanted to nationalize the oil industry in Iran. So there's a history here. There's a background here. There's deep feelings here. The Iranian people, I was in Iran like a year ago as a judge of a film festival, just to give you one point.
Yes.
And I raised this question about the nuclear issue, and the audience, jumped all over me, we have a right, blah, 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 sorry, And then I said, well, let me ask you something. Let's say you have a right. I agree, you have a right. But is it the smart thing to do, even to have nuclear power? I said nuclear power is very dangerous. 2 months later, Fukushima happened, sort of proving my point. What's wrong with solar power in a country like Iran?
Well, plus, Iran is on the largest reserve of oil in the world. Why don't they, instead of that, build refineries? Hello? They could be controlling the freaking economy.
Well, absolutely. And I said to them also, by the way, people, I'm just told that X number of Iranians every day are dying because of air pollution in Tehran, because the traffic congestion is so bad there. And, people are dying. You're not doing anything about that because
Plus, occasionally you see people hanging from trees, right?
Well, aside from that, the gasoline that you're refining is being refined in the, in the cheapest possible.
Those guys start rotting.
Look, let's not make. Do they commit human rights abuses? Yes. Do we commit human rights abuses? Hello, Guantanamo, yes. So let's not...
Not on the scale that they do, though.
Let's say not on the scale that they do. But
Right.
they're also... We're not, you know, as paranoid, quite maybe, almost as paranoid as they are, because they are being threatened every single day with bombing by Israel, by, you know, threats of all kinds. They're under severe sanctions right now, undermining their economy. And it's not a good thing for us, by the way, people. Why is, you know, we have an economic crisis in this country. We have gas going up to the roof. And now you want to sanction Iran to stop another supply of oil from being available in the West? What do you think the implications of that will be?
$5 a gallon.
Catastrophic for Americans, okay? So these policies are not really in the interest of the majority of the people of this country. And this whole battle back and forth, this phony crisis with Iran,
Right,
I think is bad.
Okay, so look, now that we all know what your point is on this issue.
Thank goodness I was
All right,
able
let's
to
go
get
back
it
to the
out.
election.
You want me to talk in sound bites, you know, like you do.
So we have Obama, who's cross-purposed with your position. We have Romney, who's cross-purposed with your position. We have Santorum, who's cross-purposed with your position. We have Gingrich, who sounds like Dick Cheney. He can't wait to go in there.
Santorum and the Ayatollah Khomeini both believed in the great Satan.
Right,
you know?
right.
Okay.
Okay, the only one of the candidates, the major candidates, who is with you on this narrow issue, maybe not on other issues, is Ron Paul.
Maybe so, but you know what's interesting is General Dempsey, who's the head of the chief of staff. You know, he basically gave an interview and he said something unexpected. He said, "Iran is a rational player, a rational actor," was his words. He said the Iranians are calculating the consequences. In other words, they may take things
more rational than Saddam.
They not necessarily. I wouldn't compare the two of them. Okay, Saddam was. You know, came to power basically by shooting.
He's playing the same kind of game, though. They're playing the same kind of game with the United States that Saddam played.
Well, I would say I wouldn't compare the two. I mean, don't forget, like, you know, 500,000 Iranians died in the war with
At
Iraq.
least 500,000, maybe
with
more,
Iraq,
maybe
that the
double
United
that.
States supported that war, provided, you know, Saddam
Still, the Iranians love us.
with air cover, you know, and all the rest of it. And yes, it's true. When you go to Iran, many people there do, you know, love and respect the United States.
That's right.
And that's absolutely true, too. So it's not like one thing. It's not like black and white. And that's what we need to understand as Americans. There's more going on there than we realize, and that's being reported here. And that's the problem. We're not getting all the information. And what I found in Iran, since you were interested about a half hour ago, about what I found there, was that, you know, people have complicated feelings about all of this. They don't like the government, particularly if you're under the age of 25 or maybe even 30. You know, that they don't like the rule by mullah, by supreme ruler, by, you know, the Basaj, the revolutionary
We have
guards.
an Iranian minder here, by the way, who's actually nodding at everything that he says.
They don't like those things. On the other hand, they don't like being bullied by the United States and being attacked by the United States, and having sanctions imposed on them, and being threatened every single day by Israel and the like. You know, how can you?
Of course, Israel thinks that they're being threatened by Iran, right?
Yeah, but so far I haven't heard of any Israelis, nuclear scientists being killed in the streets of Tel Aviv, as we've heard of nuclear scientists.
Yeah, but diplomats have been
their,
attacked. Diplomats have been attacked.
Yeah, they have been attacked.
And there have been previous attacks on Israelis around the world by surrogates of the Iranian government, such as Argentina.
We claim that. I don't know.
We claim that.
I don't know. This whole idea of surrogates is a tricky thing, Gary. Okay, Hamas. You know, in America, the assumption is Hezbollah and Hamas only breathe when the Iranian government says you can take a breath now. You know, they have no independent capacity for action. They have no independent ideology. They have no interests. They're just there as puppets of Iran. Look at how many countries are American troops in right now that American interests dominate around the world. You know, over 100, maybe 150. Seriously, does that mean that every one of those countries just you know, barks when the U.S. says barks? I don't think so. We have allies, but people have interests, not just issues. If their interests are in line with the United States, they'll be supportive of this policy or that. But if they aren't, they'll be critical of this policy or that. And this is, you know, a big issue. I mean, right now, for example, Obama may be appointing Larry Summers as the president of the World Bank. Okay? Larry Summers, who did such a brilliant job of getting the American economy back on track, you know, who did such a brilliant job of bailing out the banks and supporting the banks at every turn. He may become...
They were too big to fail.
He may become our representative to the World Bank, which means that people in the world who, want a fairer share of the world's resources are going to get this kind of arrogant guy in charge of things, who doesn't listen to anybody, who claims to know more than everybody, who was totally sexist when he was at Harvard University. I mean, this is a politics and political decisions, and we have to look carefully.
How could that be? I thought Obama was a socialist. Don't answer that question. That was just a little aside. Danny Schechter, because we'll never get to the callers if you answer. Take a breath. Danny Schechter, the news dissector who just returned from Tehran, where he interviewed Ahmadinejad, is the guest. And there are about 24 people wanting to talk to you. Can we get through them?
Yeah, sure. Do they want to talk to me or do they want to just yell at me?
I
Whatever you want to do, I'm here.
Well, let's start with Leilani in Hawaii. Leilani, welcome to News Talk Online on the Pal Talk News Network. Pal Talk News Network is U.S. Election Central 2012.
Aloha, Danny, and hi, Gary.
Oh, no aloha for me? No aloha for me, just for Danny?
Aloha. Don't make it mahalo
I said
yet.
Aloha, Gary, too.
Okay.
What's up?
I did.
Okay.
Hey, you know, I got to tell you, Danny, I'm so thankful that you were on the show today because you've sort of eased a lot of my... I guess I was a little anxious about hearing all the rhetoric in the news about Ahmadinejad's previous statements to the UN, previous statements on the media, and, of course, one of his generals recently saying that he specifically would preemptively strike any nation or any country that threatens Iran. And so I was a little anxious about hearing a lot of this stuff over the media, and I've got to tell you, I got sucked right into it, and I was thinking, well, hey, these guys are trying to amass a nuclear weapon. Israel is going to have to react, and they're going to have to react very soon in order to divert this. But after hearing some of what you had to say, I'm feeling a little more like, well, maybe the United States and Israel can come up with some kind of peace talk with Iran and hopefully squelch the whole idea of going to war. But I thank you for being here.
Thank you for your call. Mahalo.
Wow, listen to this. He talks the talk. He just doesn't walk the walk. Let's go to Cassandra in the United Kingdom. Welcome to News Talk Online.
Hi, Cassandra.
On the Pal Talk News Network. Cassandra, you've been with me since the beginning of this show many, many years ago. I think that when I reached over and pinched Danny's cheek, it's the first time I ever did that to a guest. Welcome to News Talk Online on the Pal Talk News Network. Can you verify that?
It felt so good.
I certainly can. I certainly can, and I think he probably enjoyed it.
Oh, I did.
Too much. But he lives in Chelsea, so it's okay. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, I wanted to go back to the subject of Iran, and I was talking to a friend of mine who comes onto this program, who lives in Tehran, who supported the Green Revolution, and who was listening to the Ayatollah Khamenei's speech recently, when he said that that the destruction of Israel was that was the aim, that it didn't matter how many people died in Iran as long as the cause was just, and he considered it to be the right cause, as long as 3 million Jews died. Now, he said to me that had Ahmadinejad said this, he would not have been so concerned, because Ahmadinejad will say things that don't necessarily always have credibility.
Listen,
but when Khamenei says them, then you listen, because what he says he tends to do, because he is in fact the law and not Ahmadinejad.
He is the supreme.
I'd like to hear your comments on that.
Yes, he is the supreme ruler. I just would like to inform you, although I'm not going to blame these people, but I did go to the London School of Economics, so I have lived in your country and know something about it. But here's what I think. I think a lot of people say things for different audiences. We're watching the Republican debates in America. We see all these people are appealing to the most extreme social conservative audiences possible, because those are the people who are voting in the primaries. They're not talking to the general election yet, the general electorate. In Iran, you know, Israel is a whipping boy. It's a country whose name is not even used. You know, and it's a convenient way to unify people against an external enemy, which they do. To my knowledge, they have not threatened to kill Jews.